Hi, my name is Bill Shane and I work for the X-Analysis Support Group here at Fresh Solutions. Today we're going to go through this video to show you the highlights for the changes for AI for X-Analysis version 13.5.04. So here, as you can see, I'm looking at a repository called XAN4CDXA. As you can see here in the search icon, I've put in 13.504 because I want to restrict down the list of the repositories I see to just this particular version. So any repository that you see that's in bold has been initialized to use the AI against it, and I can use it. Now the first thing I want to show you is up here. If I click on this little person here, there's been an addition now. I actually have the details of the build version of the X-Analysis software, but the addition is it now also tells me what LLM provider I'm using. In this case, as you can see, it's Anthropic, and I'm using Claude Sonnet 4.0. OpenAI will also work at this version as well. So I'll just click on anywhere to close that. One of the really interesting features is from this screen, I can create my repository, set my library list, and run my initialize. And this is how I do it. So if I go here to the plus, as you can see, I can add a repository. Now anything that's got a red asterisk is required. So I have to put in a repository name, and because a repository is actually a library with the same name on the IBMI, I have to follow the library naming conventions. I can't have embedded spaces, for example. So I'm just going to call this a test, just for the sake of argument, and I'll say AI repository. Okay, and then I'll say add. Now once it's added, as you can see, I have a test here, but it's grayed out because I haven't initialized it yet. I don't even have the library lists. Now I can click on app libraries. In order to create a repository, I need at least one source and one object library. So I'm going to click on the plus side, and I'm going to use XAN4CDEM, which we also ship with the software. That's the library that the XAN4CDXA is based on. And usage type, it has both sources and objects, so I'm going to select source first and object later. You could do it the other way around. The model is only used if you have a special sign-on license, and the IFS is in there for future use. So I'm going to say it's a source, and I'm going to add that. And now, as you can see, it added it. Now I'm going to add in the same library, XAN4CDEM, and I'm going to make it an object library. If the library didn't exist, it should flag it here. So now, as you can see, I have my source and I have my object. So now I can go and initialize my repository. Now, if I click on here, I can go to initialize repository down here. In order to initialize the repository, I need to have all object authority. So here's my little pop-up screen. If I wanted to at this point, I could say, in the same job, as well as initializing my repository, I want to generate a data model, and I could also generate business rules. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do the straight initialize. You have include the job schedule entries, so if you're using the IBM Basic Job Scheduler, those entries will also appear in this repository. The server URL I leave as default, the server port I also leave as default, and the coded character set I leave as default. Now, as you can see, there's a note down here. Refresh is not yet supported on repositories initialized for X-Analysis AI. So if you wanted to update the repository, you would have to submit and initialize to do it, which you could do from here. So I'm going to click on submit, and now the job's been submitted. If I go up here, this little wave, I guess you call it, I have one active task, and the active task is in progress. This is actually my initialize running. So I'm going to let that run. Once it's finished, I'll be able to go and look at the repository. So now if you take a look at that wavy line again, you see it's gone gray. Now it says no active tasks, so that means my initialize is finished. I already flipped over to the 5250 side just to take a look to make sure that it did finish. So what I did here was I ended my previous web session and restarted this one. This way the left-hand side has now been cleared, so anything that I do, you can actually see the results as you would have in the previous videos. One thing I wanted to point out, now that the initialize is finished, is if you look under here, there is now, as of this version, the last initialized dates. So as you can see, this repository was initialized November 19th at 3:17 p.m. So now I can just look and see the last time a repository that's been initialized for AI was initialized. So I'm going to use the same repository, and one new feature for 13.504 that's I really like is you can now create application areas and also add your application area rules. So as you can see here, I don't have any application areas yet, so I'm going to hit the plus sign here to add one, and I'm going to call it test, and it also needs a description, so I'm going to say test for AI, and I'm going to leave all the other fields by default, and I'm going to click submit. So as you can see here, I now have my application area. If I click on the three dots here, I want to add a rule. So again, I click on the plus sign, and I'm going to select all the programs, so I'm not going to see all the objects, and I need either an object comparison or a list of libraries that I'm going to select. So I'm going to put this equal asterisk. Now I used asterisk before, that's why it showed up as a default. So I'm going to click on submit. So there's my rule. Now I have to make the rule active, so if I click on this hammer, it will now apply the application area rules. Now if I go back to my application area here tab and I say show me all the objects here, as you can see, they're all programs. They're all start PGM. I know that this worked. So I'm just going to close these now. And as you can see down here, every time I did something, it actually gave me a little message. So let me just close all these. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to list off all the objects, because another addition is there is a data flow diagram that you can create. If this will show you for a single program or a file or a logical file how it connects with all the other objects inside the repository. So I'm going to start with this program CB906R. If I click on here, I say view data flow diagram. And here's my data flow diagram. In the middle is the object I selected. As you could see, there is a called program up here. There is a calling program. There is an input-output file. In this case, it's a display file. And I have a couple of files here that are updated. Now, I'm going to go back to my objects, and there is a file called CUSF, so I'm just going to select that. And I'm going to actually do the data flow diagram for that. This is the main file in this particular tutorial. So as you can see, in the middle is the CUSF file. Over here, these are all the different logical files listed. Here are all the different input programs. So as you can see, there are a fair number of them. Here's actually a trigger program that's associated with this file. Here are the update programs. Here's the input-output ones. Here's the output ones. And down here is the update output one. So finally, I'm going to go and pick CUSFLA as an object. I'm going to select CUSFLA. This is the logical file that I want to take a look at the data flow diagram for. And as you can see, it shows me the physical file, a couple of input files that I'm showing here. I can get a pretty good idea of the interactions between the different objects inside my repository. As you can see, I've reset the web page so that we're starting from scratch again. And I wanted to show you another new feature from 13.504. As you can see here, for example, I have an older version of the software here. This is a 13.503 repository, and as you can see, I'm on 13.504. But if I click here, I can actually open it for version 13.503. It knows what version I'm at and offers me to open it. And now as you can see here, it says 13.503. So I already have a user profile set up for this particular entry. And I just click on OK to sign on. Otherwise, you'd have to put in your user profile and your password. And now, as you can see, I'm now using the 13503 version. So now I can go back in here, and when I click on this, I now have all the different options I have, just as I did on 13504, except now specifically for 13503. We strongly recommend that when you're looking at a repository, you make sure you're on the same software level on the web UI as you are in the repository. That is the end of this video. If you have any questions, please get in touch with us. Probably the easiest way is to send an email to support@freshsolutions, and as you can see here, it's FRESCHE solutions.com, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have.